We have an Insurrection Act for a reason. If I had to enact it, I'd do that.
President Donald Trump and his senior aides are increasingly using the term insurrection to describe anti-IC protests in cities like Portland, signaling a possible legal and political escalation. The president told reporters Monday he could invoke the centuries-old Insurrection Act if federal courts continue to block his attempts to send National Guard troops into cities resisting federal deployments. Trump described scenes in Portland as criminal insurrection, insisting the federal government has a duty to restore order. A federal judge's ruling last week temporarily halted deployment of the National Guard to Oregon. White House officials say the administration sees the move as part of a broader resistance to federal immigration enforcement. Senior advisor Stephen Miller labeled the court order itself as legal insurrection, arguing that judicial interventions are obstructing what he calls the executive branch's constitutional responsibilities.
The Insurrection Act, under what conditions or terms would you?
Well, I'd do it if it was necessary. So far it hasn't been necessary, but we have an Insurrection Act for a reason. If I had to enact it, I'd do that. If people were being killed and courts were holding us up, or governors or mayors were holding us up, sure, I'd do that. I mean, I want to make sure that people aren't killed. We have to make sure that our cities are safe.
White House senior advisor Stephen Miller said there is an effort to delegitimize the core function of the federal government of enforcing our immigration laws and our sovereignty. Now you want to know about what is the Insurrection ACT? The Insurrection Act, first passed in 1792, allows presidents to deploy the U.S. military domestically under specific conditions, mainly when normal law enforcement mechanisms fail. It has been invoked over a dozen times in U.S. history, most recently during the 1992 Los Angeles riots at the request of California's governor. If Trump were to act without state approval, it would echo past uses of the law by Presidents Dwight Eisenhower and John F. Kennedy, who invoked it to enforce school desegregation against the wishes of Southern governors in the 1950s and 1960s. Legal experts warn, however, that invoking the Insurrection Act over current protest activity could trigger a constitutional clash between the executive branch and state governments. Both Portland and Chicago leaders have rejected federal troop deployment, signaling that any such move from Washington would face immediate court challenges. The renewed debate underscores a growing tension between federal authority and local jurisdictions as protests continue and election year politics amplify divisions across the country.